Today, we continue to journey ever deeper into this Lenten season. And in journeying to the Lenten season, we have to start to call to mind some important realities. A reality that will take us back to the great celebration of December, when we had that period of preparation of Advent, awaiting the birth of the Messiah, recognizing that God entered this world in the person of Jesus Christ as a child. And this child was born for one singular reason. The child was born to die in order that we might live. That's an insane reality. God sent his son into the world with that purpose of dying, so that you and I will have the opportunity to live. And now we find ourselves in this Lenten journey, this season of 40 days, in which it culminates with those great celebrations of Holy Week that we will enter into with reverence, with love, and that comes to the beautiful reality of the resurrection of Christ, Easter Sunday, the fulfillment of everything we've hoped for and everything that we've wished. We began this journey on Ash Wednesday by marking our foreheads with the cross. And in those ashes, we are reminded of the depths of God's love for you and for me. And God's love is not just for those who love him. God's love is for all people. And then on Sunday, we heard that wonderful reading that Jesus was driven out into the desert, led by the Spirit of God. And while in that desert, he prayed. He was in communion with God for those 40 days. He was tempted. And what we realize in that desert, that Satan is powerless before the Son of God. Jesus did not succumb to any of those temptations. The power of Christ is greater than anything the devil can throw our way. So for 40 days, Jesus is tempted. And at the end of that, the devil throws his hands up. Nothing could be done. We're in these 40 days. These 40 days of Lent that's marked out by prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. We fast during this time for a very special reason, to quiet down what is going on within our hearts, to take control of our appetites so that we are free to pray, to be in communication with God. And Jesus gives us today in the gospel a beautiful way to communicate. Recognizing God as our Father, he cries out, Abba, Pater, Dad, Father, who resides in heaven. And he is holy. And his kingdom will come. His will, well, that will be done. That takes us to the Garden of Gethsemane, when Christ himself says, let this chalice pass from me, but let your will be done, not mine. During this Lenten journey, let's make that our prayer. Lord, let your will be done, not mine. And then that's the almsgiving. Can you think of a greater thing to give this Lenten season than to give God your heart? To say to God completely, this I give to you. Our Lady so beautifully, she said, your will be done. Let it be done to me according to your word. And she believed it. And she lived it. It's a model and an example for us to say the same. Here I am, Lord. I come to do your will. But as we say it, let us mean it. As we heard in that first reading that Ethan proclaimed to us so beautifully, that God's word issued forth from his mouth will come upon this world, will be in this earth. And Isaiah reminds us, it shall not return void, but shall do my will, achieving the end for which I sent you. We are all being sent. We are all called to do the will of God. And the will of God is so very simple, so very basic. Jesus tells us throughout the scripture, God's will is your salvation. God wills us to be saints. He wants us to be saints among the saints in the kingdom of heaven. If we're not striving to answer that universal call to holiness, then what are we really doing? This Lenten season, we have the unique opportunity to fast so that we can be available to God, to pray, and in our prayer mean the words that we say. We hear in the Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others. This is a time of forgiveness. When we really listen to those words, what we're saying to God is, we're giving you a license, God, to forgive me only as much as I'm willing to forgive others. So if I'm not willing to forgive others, what I'm actually saying to God is, you don't need to forgive me. That's ludicrous. God forgives us. He loves us. And he does it 100% of the time. Shouldn't we do likewise? Forgive us as we forgive others. Which means we need to be reaching out to one another. We need to be reaching out, offering mercy and offering love. That's the hallmark of this season. Let's not waste the opportunity. Let's use each and every one of the remaining days of these 40 days to listen, to pray, and to give, so that we, as Isaiah reminds us, will achieve the end for which we are sent. Our Lady is a wonderful example to each of us. She heard God's voice through the angel. She received God's word through the Spirit. And she said, I am your servant. Let it be done as you say.